Alexandro, this is the Global Digest think tank group, and why don't you briefly introduce to our audience, please?
Yes, thank you for the invitation, first of all. My expertise is on Eastern Mediterranean. I'm a geopolitical analyst, mainly focused on Greek-Turkish relations and, of course, the Iranian strategic implications in the Middle East, and, of course, the Turkish strategic implications in the same area. So I'm going to make you a presentation about these two actors, Turkey and Iran. I think this is a very interesting issue, a very interesting topic, because those two actors, they imply a really interesting strategic, let's say, a very interesting strategic implication on the area.
Right.
This area affects, I think, the whole global diplomacy and generally the international relations, including the Western, those of the Western powers. And I think it's really important to understand mainly the strategic culture.
Right.
I forget to mention that when I use the geopolitical analysis tool, I also use the historical tool. I think history and culture, they can give us a great tool, a great understanding tool in order to have a much more deep cultural understanding, and
Right.
after this we can understand the whole strategy of an actor. So I use both geopolitics and history to make my conclusions.
Right. You know, the Mediterranean Sea is important between Russia and Middle East and Europe, especially Greek-Turkey relation is close.
We're gonna talk about Turkey and Iran and examine if there is a little bit of complementarity as for the strategic implications, of course. So let's start. So we have two major actors in Middle East, Turkey and Iran. Those are big countries. They are two big Muslim countries, even though there is a differentiation about the doctrine. On the one hand, we have Turkey, which is a Sunni majority country, and on the other hand, we have Iran, which is Shia majority. Now, despite the historical and the ideological differences between the two of them, it appears to be converging on a strategy to counter Western influence, of course, in the Middle East and in the Eastern Mediterranean. So both countries view the US, of course, with suspicion, and particularly regarding its interventions in the region. So both Turkey and Iran, they are vocal critics of the Western influence, of course, and on the other hand, we have they both draw inspiration from the historical narratives. We're gonna see as we walk in our presentation which those narratives are. So the first of all, we have to think about those two actors is that they are both imperialistic powers. They both share an imperial past, and these imperial past have a deep influence on their strategic narratives. On the one hand, we have the Ottoman Empire. The Turkish state is the successor of the Ottoman Empire. And of course, the second one is the Achaemenid Empire, is the first Persian Empire. The Iranians, they had two empires, the Achaemenid Empire and the Sasanian Empire. So both countries, Turkey and Iran, they share an imperialistic past. This past affects the current strategic implications that they both have on the Middle East. So we have to keep this in our mind.
Right.
Now, let's talk first about Turkey. when we're talking about Turkey's strategic implications, we have to think about one person. This is the person, Ahmet Davutoglu. It's a Turkish academic which wrote the strategic depth. It is called strategic denirlik in Turkish language.
He was prime minister before.
Yes, it was the prime minister, and of course, it was the foreign minister of Turkey. Right now, as we speak, Davutoglu is not the right hand of President Erdogan, but still, its strategic narrative affects the Turkish politics. We have keep this in our mind. So, Ahmet Davutoglu had written Strategic Depth in 2000. It's an old one, but still affects the Turkish politics, and we're gonna see how Turkey implies the strategy. So when we're talking about Turkey, we have to know that it's an expansionist power. The Turkish doctrine, mainly guided by Ahmet Davutoglu, it says that Turkey needs to exert its influence through military means, mainly military means, in order to, let's say, restore the Ottoman past. Davutoglu says that Turkey needs to leverage its historical depth. It says that Turkey has historical and religious ties with all the countries that now they are states, but in the past they were all parts of the Ottoman Empire. So Turkey has taken this narrative of the Ottoman Empire and tries to make a neo-Ottoman Empire strategy by using mainly military means. On this map, we can see the military presence of Turkey. It's the current military presence of Turkey. We can see Libya. We can see their military bases in Syria, in Somalia, of course, in Qatar, in Iraq, in Albania, in Kosovo. So we can see that there's a strategy of Turkey that tries to exert influence on the region of the Eastern Mediterranean, of course, and in the regions that they were formed the Ottoman Empire. So
it's still influence, right?
Exactly, of course. So this is the main strategic goal of Turkey. Now, apart from the imperialistic strategy through military means, Turkey has also a naval doctrine. This doctrine is called the Blue Homeland. At this point, I need to mention that Turkey has copied the Chinese strategy. The Chinese strategy also considers the Chinese Sea as part of the Chinese state. China thinks that the Chinese Sea it's something really important for its strategy.
You mean South China Sea?
Exactly. This is the doctrine of China, and Turkey has copied this doctrine. It is called the Blue Homeland. This is on the left. This is the areas of control according to Turkey's Blue Homeland naval doctrine. As you can see, my country, Greece, is also being affected by this doctrine. And on the second map, we can see the competing claims over the Eastern Mediterranean. Of course, this is another issue. This is another part of the analysis. It has to do with international maritime law. I will not mention this type of analysis right now because it's another topic. But as you can see, Turkey tries to violate the international maritime law in order to apply this Blue Homeland naval doctrine.
So that sea Blue Homeland Turkey want to claim it's their own exclusive economic zone or more than exclusive economic zone.
Exactly. Turkey knows very well that the Eastern Mediterranean is a great trade route, a sea trade route. Of course, there are many natural gas resources And apart from this, Turkey wants to violate international maritime law, because this is a clearly violation of the international maritime law. But it's very crucial if it wants to apply this blue homeland strategy, because if this strategy comes true, then Turkey will have a neo-Ottoman doctrine. This is the main goal of Turkey. So the Eastern Mediterranean is a region of strategic importance, as I mentioned before, due to energy resources, trade routes, and geopolitical competition. So this expansion creates a potential imbalance, of course, and security concerns, both for Greece and Israel. Israel is not excluded by this strategic implication, because Israel is a Mediterranean country, of course. It has signed a delimitation of exclusive economic zone with Cyprus. And of course, this doctrine affects also Israel's security. Now, Turkey's strategy, Turkey's actions, like disregarding exclusive economic zones and conducting resource exploration activities comes in disputed waters and challenge, of course, international law. Now, as we move on, we can see some cultural factors that have shaped Turkey's mindset. We have two of them, at least in my opinion. The first one is the nomadic fighting style. On the photo right here, I have the Hilal strategy. The Hilal strategy, it is a nomadic type of strategy. As you may know, the Turkish state and of course the Ottoman Empire was being formed on the ground of the Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire, or Eastern Roman Empire, was a Greek empire. And after the Turkish occupation forces came to power, and they managed to conquer Constantinople, which is now the biggest city of Turkey, they implied this strategy. This strategy is called the Hilal strategy. It's a strategy which tries to encircle the opponent and make an exhaustion. This is why Turkey has made its military presence like a circle, and tries to encircle mainly Greece and Cyprus. If I go to the former map that I showed you before with the military presence, you will see that Turkey tries to encircle the Eastern Mediterranean with Libya, with Albania, with the invasion of Syria, with Somalia, of course. Somalia lies on the Red Sea. Red Sea is a very crucial choke point for the maritime trade. And we can see that Turkey implies exactly those kind of cultural elements on its strategy. So this nomadic historical experiences might emphasize encirclement, of course, to wear down opponents through constant pressure and maneuvers. The second factor is the Muslim Brotherhood. This is the symbol of the Muslim Brotherhood. President Erdogan is a formidable member of the Muslim Brotherhood. I can mention that the Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni Islamist movement, but on its deep strategic core, it aims to unite the whole Muslims against the West. So Turkey is a state that is a promoter of the Muslim Brotherhood, and of course this also affects the Turkey's expansion strategy. Now, as we move on, now we are talking about the Iranian strategic influence, and of course how this strategy is being applied on the Middle East. Now, Iran employs a distinct regional strategy compared to Turkish one, focusing on leveraging religious narratives and cultivating influence among the Shia populations of the Middle East. Right here, I have two maps. You can see that Iran is trying to form a strategic depth, but it's different from Turkish one. The Iranians, they do not apply military means mainly. It applies religious narratives. It applies a strategy that involves Shia militias along the Middle East in order to construct a strategic depth, mainly by Shia militias. Iran, as Turkey, views the West with suspicion and seeks to create a regional sphere of influence that resists Western power, of course, and of course, it's against the Sunni dominance in the region. So the Iran has two opponents. It has the Gulf states, mainly the Saudi Arabia, and of course the Western powers spearheaded by the USA, of course. Now, the Iranian doctrine, as I mentioned before, it aims to conduct Shia populations. On the left map, you can see the Shia population distribution in the Middle East. And in the second map, we can see the network of Iranian-based militant groups in the Middle East. This is the main strategy of Iran. Iran provides financial and military backing to Shia militias in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon, of course, with Hezbollah, creating a network of proxy forces that advance its interests. Now, Iran promotes its culture and religious scholarship, of course, fostering ties with Shia communities throughout the region. Now, Iran also has two narratives. First of all, I'm going to mention that this is the American military presence and the Iranian-based Shia militias. I have put these two maps in comparison because I want you to see how the military presence in the Middle East is countering the Iranian presence. This is the main goal of the Iranian military doctrine. The Iran does not want the USA to be involved in the Middle East. The Americans, they have a series of military bases, mainly military bases. On the other side, we have Iran, which has the Shia militia proxies, which are both military ones and religious ones. Iran uses a lot the religious narrative, mainly conducted by the Shia doctrine. I have to mention that when you're talking about Shia Muslim populations of the Middle East, we are talking about Persian influenced, because the Shia Muslim doctrine is mainly Persian. On the other hand, the Sunni one is the main doctrine of the Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and of course Egypt. Egypt is a very crucial country in the Middle East, by the way. So, as we move on, let's talk about the cultural factor on Iranian point of view. I have put two images. The first image is the Achaemenid is the Achaemenid bird. It's the symbol of the Achaemenid Empire. And the second one is the symbol of Nizari Ismaili Muslims. I have to explain why I have put those two pictures in order to describe the cultural doctrine of Iran. The first one is the imperial, of course. This narrative evokes a sense of historical glory and cultural superiority, fostering aspirations for regional influence and potentially territorial expansion. As you may know, the Achaemenid Empire was an expansionist force. It was aimed to exert Persian influence along the Middle East and, of course, the Eastern Mediterranean. As you may know from the history, the Persian Empire had fought with Greeks. The Greek city-states managed to defeat the Persians. And in the next centuries, the Sassanid Empire came to a clash with the Byzantine Empire. So we, the Greeks, we had fought in two different Persian empires. So this imperial past affects the current Iranian regime. The second one is the Hashashin doctrine. The assassins, you may know the assassins, the people knows the assassins mainly from the games, but the assassin sect was a Shia Muslim sect. The Assassins was formed by Persian scholars, by the way. And I mention this because the Iranian proxy warfare has been influenced by this assassin doctrine. Now, when we are talking about assassin's doctrine, what do we mean? This narrative is linked to the historical Ismaili sect, of course, known as the Assassins, which emphasize covert operations, information warfare, and targeted actions to achieve strategic objectives. So, cultural outreach, and historical connections can be used to cultivate influence and build ties with other countries in the region, mainly with the Shia population, of course. The Assassin doctrine involves ideological guidance, first of all, asymmetrical tactics, and denial and plausible deniability. Now, this is the Iranian ballistic arsenal. I mentioned this photo only just to share another aspect of Iranian strategy. This is the ballistic missiles of the Iran, along with the proxies throughout the Middle East. They use the ballistic missiles in order to pressure the other states and, of course, pressure the foreign powers like the US. Now, I'm gonna conclude my my presentation, which are the strategic goals of both Turkey and Iran. The first one is the EU-India trade deal. It's a deal that was signed recently. Turkey and Iran, of course, they do not want this deal. It counters their interests in the region, and of course, this deal has to be destroyed, and that's why we have Houthis in the Red Sea, and of course the Israeli-Hamas war. I mentioned this really quickly. The second one is the competition in the Middle East. Iran counters Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. We have Shia and Sunni competition. So the second part of Iranian strategic goal, of course, is to counter the Gulf states. So we have some complementarity between the two powers, and this is how we can understand the strategic implications of both Turkey and Iran. So I'm finished with my presentation. Of course, I could have told you many more things, but you have to have a bigger idea about those two actors.
Right. So, how's Turkey-Greek relation at the moment?
The Greek-Turkish relations at the moment, they seem to be fine, but this is not true. As we speak right now, Turkey expands its military and the ballistic arsenal as we speak. Turkey aims to construct battleships, aims to get submarines, and this, of course, poses a strategic threat to Greece. Greece, on the other hand, tries to leverage the opportunity and expand, of course, its military presence by buying Rafale jets from France, by buying new ships from France, of course, the FDI frigates. And I think in the near future, those two powers will collide because Turkey and Greece, they share a common region. Maybe the two countries, of course, form part of NATO strategic alliance. But in my point of view, there is a great historical rivalry between the two states. So I'm not sure if this situation will keep on like this.
So also, you know, Greece is close to the Ukraine and Russia. How is Greece's relationship with Russia?
Well, at the moment, the Greek relations with Russia is, let's say, hostile. Greece has expelled Russian diplomats. Russia has provided assistance to Ukraine. So at the moment, the relations between the two countries are not good. I'm not sure how this will keep moving on the near future, but right now, as you may know, the whole Western countries are countering Russian invasion in Ukraine, and Greece, of course, is a part of the European Union, is part of NATO, and follows the same strategy. This is the answer.
I see.
Turkey has a good relation with Russia. I mean, it has a relation mainly guided by ambiguity. On the one hand, Turkey is part of NATO, of course, but on the other hand, Turkey tries to leverage the situation and maintain, let's say, a good relationship with Russia. Do not forget that Russia right now provides assistance to Turkey in order to build nuclear facilities. President Putin, of course, had told that in 2024, Turkey will become an energy hub, mainly assisted by Russia. I had a map, by the way, but I couldn't manage to show you how Turkey aims to become an energy hub with Russian assistance. So I think that Turkey uses its strategic location. Turkey knows that it has a really important location in the Middle East and tries to leverage the situation by using both NATO and Russia to achieve its strategic goals. This is my opinion.
Right.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, it's an Islamist, of course, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, as I mentioned, and he thinks that Turkey, because due to its location, it can leverage strategic advantages both from Russia and NATO. This is the strategy.
Erdogan is more closer to Russia, you know, compared to other Turkey leaders. So he will be more good relationship with Putin, I guess. But I don't know, Turkey also a little bit helpful for Ukraine or not. I don't know how's Ukraine relationship with Turkey. Ukraine president met with Erdogan in Turkey, right? How did you see their relationship?
Of course, as I mentioned before, Turkey maintains relations with both NATO countries and Russia, but it also maintains relations with Ukraine. Turkey has built UAVs for Ukraine, the Bayraktar. Bayraktar is a Turkish unmanned vehicle. It's very widespread among many countries, and one of the countries is, of course, Ukraine. On the other hand, Turkey had facilitated an agreement between Ukraine and Russia in order to transport grains from Ukraine to the other countries. So I think that that Turkey also uses its relations with Ukraine in order to leverage strategic advantages. And of course, Turkey talks also with Russia and Ukraine. It tries to sign another deal, by the way, as we speak right now. And it's the same strategy. Turkey knows it has a strategic location and tries to talk with everyone in the region in order to serve its interests. It's the same thing.
Right. I mean, Turkey do some helping Ukraine, but not completely, not many things. I think Turkey has limited assistance to Ukraine. Also, they still cooperating with Russia and other, you know, neighbor countries. So, I mean, that may not very good for Ukraine. Also, I mean, Turkey is not much, they are not much fully willing to cooperate with EU. In fact, Turkey is not EU members, right? So this and this, I think in the end, Europe, Greeks, I think you have to make your own position strong, I guess. And maybe Greece and Israeli relationship will be closer? How did you see?
Well, Greece maintains a strategic relationship with Israel, as you mentioned. Of course, Greece and Israel shares common interests in the Eastern Mediterranean. Greece and Israel they have a great interest to build the East Med. East Med will unite the fronts with Greece, Cyprus, and Israel, and of course with Egypt. This agreement is being based on international law. On the contrary, Turkey's strategy is not based on international law. It's based on violation of international law. Of course, there is a strategic agreement between Greece and Israel. We maintain a very good relationship. Turkey, as for the relations between Turkey and Europe, I strongly believe that Turkey only wants Europe for money. Turkey uses mainly the refugees and the illegal immigration in order to get money from Europe, and tries to leverage this money in order to build its military presence and arsenal.
So
I think that
how much European provide financial assistance to Turkey?
the Europe provides financial assistance due to the illegal migration.
How
And
much?
of course, how much? I think the last one was 6 billion. The last one.
Billion euro.
Billion euro, yes, of course.
Every
And
year? Every year? No, not every year.
Not every year, of course, not every year. But Turkey knows very well that that by instrumentalize illegal migration through Greece and other countries, it manages to take some money from Europe. On the other hand, Turkey is a very great trade partner with Europe. Many products being produced in Turkey are being transferred to Europe. So Turkey knows very well that European Union will try to maintain a good relation with Turkey. Of course, this causes some problems, but it's another analysis.
I mean, you mean 6 billion euro assistance to give me shelter or something to deal with immigrants in Turkey, or mostly what they are used for the money?
My opinion, it's coin that goes to Turkey from the European states goes to assist Turkey's expansionist strategy. This I tell it because I know how Turkey works. Here in Greece, we know Turks very well. We know how they think. We know how they manage to exert influence. So, using the historical examples, since the time of the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire had been used, the European states in that time, in order to take money. So Turkey, as a state with a neo-Ottoman strategic view, follows the same narrative. They only want Europe just for money. This is I tell it for sure.
Well, Turkey also willing to be part of European Union, right? They
No.
also
No. Turkey does not want to be a member of Europe. This is something that I need to be clear with that. Turkey, especially under Erdogan, under President Erdogan, aims to turn itself to Eurasia. Turkey views itself as an Asian country, mainly Asian country. It aims to have a strategic alliance with states like Russia, China, Iran, and other states. So I don't think that Turkey is willing to be part of Europe. And I think also that the European countries, they do not want to accept Turkey in the European Union for many reasons. So that's another conversation.
I see. Because Turkey position is in the middle between Europe and Middle East, West Asia, but it's not totally in Asia because they are
I
far
agree.
from Asia.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Of course, Turkey, as I mentioned before, it uses its strategic location. I have to mention that Turkey maintains very good relations with Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, like Uzbekistan, like Kyrgyzstan, because all these countries, they are, let's say, the Turkic world. These countries, they speak varieties of Turkish language. So Turkey, by using this cultural aspect and let's say historical ties, it tries to form a bloc of Turkish nations. And of course, Turkey will be the leader of this bloc. So as you can see, Turkey tries to maintain a Euro-Asian strategy, let's say, by using these states.
I mean, the thing is, Turkey want to be leader in the region. If they call West Asia or Central Asia, because there will be also another power, Iran. I don't know how much Turkey and Iran relation. Do you have any idea?
Of course. In my presentation, I mentioned the complementarity between Turkish and Iranian strategy to counter Western influence. On the other hand, this does not mean that Turkey has a strategic alliance with Iran. If we speak about Middle East or even Central Asia, Turkey and Iran, they are not friends. Maybe they will be enemies, of course, because you should not forget that Turkey is a Sunni majority country and Iran is a Shia majority country. So of course, the strategic interests, as for the Middle East, they may be contradictory. Of course, this is something that we should also have in our mind, for sure, no doubt of that. I think that Turkey uses the Muslim immigrants. It uses the Muslim populations in Europe. Many intelligence services throughout Europe have told that Turkey maintains good relations with Muslim population. Then this may cause some problems in European states. Of course, Turkey may instrumentalize those populations, and of course this poses a threat to the internal security of the European nations. I think this is something that the European states knows about that, and is another part of Turkey's expansion strategy. Turkey does not only uses the military presence; it also uses the religious narratives, as Iran does in Middle East, as I mentioned in my presentation. So of course, this is a very great problem that Europe will have to deal with it, and Europe will start to investigate how to counter this problem. It's another part of the Turkish strategy. I would say that the Turkish strategy is a multiple one. It uses a lot of aspects in order to exert influence. This is something that we have to keep in our mind when we're talking about
a lot of Muslim immigrants came from Turkey nowadays to Europe.
The illegal migration mainly uses Greece, Italy, and Spain. Turkey, as for the Turkish illegal migration, it comes through the Greek islands, and then they were spreading to Europe. This was the case. This was the plan. Imagine that until 2015. Due to Syria crisis and Syrian war, in Europe they came almost 1 million immigrants. The numbers depend. There is not an exact number because you cannot count the illegal migration with accuracy. It's something really difficult to do it because Europe has a lot of entrances. So the numbers vary, but it's still it's a big number.
So Greek government accept a lot of Muslim immigrants or Muslim refugee in Greek, or Greek send them to the other European country. How's your policy?
Right now, if you ask me, I cannot understand the Greek policy about illegal immigration. I think that Greece follows the European law. This is what Greece can do. In Europe, all the countries, they are forced to follow the European regional law. So I think according to this, the Greece follows this context. This is not, of course, my expertise, but I can say that yes, Greece uses the European law about this and the international law about migration.
So Greeks maybe accept some refugee, and they also let them go to other European countries from Greece.
This is something I do not know, to be honest.
You have no idea.
This is out of my expertise.
I see. So how much Greek's Navy capacity, how's your strength, and how's Turkey Navy? Turkey has bigger Navy than Greeks right now.
There is right now the Greek Navy is capable to counter the Turkish Navy. Of course, in the future, I do not know how the things will go. I think there is an equilibrium between the two countries, as I can see from open sources, of course.
Turkey has more warship, and more,
I think it has more ships because it's bigger country, of course.
And Greek also have sufficient ship, attack ship, or warship.
Definitely.
So
definitely, yes.
Greek can defend the country sufficiently. Marine.
Yes, definitely.
Security.
Definitely. First of all, we are both NATO countries, and on the other hand, of course, Greece is a part of European Union. Of course, it can require assistance from the EU members. It's something that it's on European law. So yes. 1974, there was an invasion in Cyprus by the Turkish forces.
Who is control now? Cyprus.
Cyprus is a member of the European Union.
It's not part of Greek territory.
No. It's not part of Greece, but it's inhabited by Greeks, mainly by Greeks. I mean, the Republic of Cyprus is being inhabited by Greeks. And the other part that there was a Turkish invasion, it's inhabited by Turkish Cypriots, and of course Turkey tries to bring other population, but of course this is another big conversation. I think.
You mean Cyprus is an independent country?
Yes.
But
the Republic of Cyprus, yes.
Not the whole Cyprus.
No.
Half is controlled by Turkey.
Exactly.
Half is independent Cyprus country. So
the Cypriot issue is a very big issue as for the Eastern Mediterranean, and of course it provokes a lot of problems to Greek-Turkish relations. Of course, this is a very big issue.
I see. So the whole people in the Cyprus, they don't want to be united, and they don't want to be one country.
This is another discussion, a very big discussion.
You have no idea.
I think it forms part for another analysis to talk about Cyprus.
Greece is supporting Israeli and any helping for solution the conflict? How's your Greece position?
Greece maintains, as I mentioned before, a good relation with Israel. The Greek government supports peace, of course, and for now, Greece provides, let's say, an assistance through the EU and other international organization. Greece does not involve in this conflict, but of course, as I mentioned before, Greece maintains a very good relationship with Israel. There is no doubt of that.
You know, it's not far from Greece. You know?
Of course, it's not far from Greece. Definitely, there's no involvement of Greece right here, as far as I know.
I see. So thank you for today.
For the invitation. Thank you for your time, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to present you some ideas about this region.